Returning to the house where his family was brutally murdered during the war, the man who refuses to die dismantles it, loads it on a truck, and is determined to rebuild it somewhere safe in their honor. When the Red Army commander who killed his family comes back hell-bent on finishing the job, a relentless, eye-popping cross-country chase ensues, a fight to the death.
Rated R.
First things first, this is a sequel to Sisu, an obscure 2022 film about a Finnish gold miner who fights against the Germans in World War II. It was a mystery movie back in 2022, but that was before I started watching them, which means this is the first time that a Regal mystery movie is a sequel to a previous Regal mystery movie. Now, I haven't seen the original Sisu, but I have heard of it. But after watching Sisu Road to Revenge, I don't have much interest to check it out anytime soon. The movie opens with a little narrative about how the Soviet Union took over parts of Finland post-World War II. The Finnish people were removed and a border was set up. There's also a brief definition of the word Sisu. Sisu is a Finnish word, variously translated as stoic determination, tenacity of purpose, grit, bravery, resilience, and hardiness. It is held by the Finns to express their national character. Enter our main character, Atami Korpi, played by Jorma Tammila. He's re-entering this former Finnish land to reclaim his personal belongings. He is the strong, silent type, and I mean that in the most literal sense. He says literally nothing throughout the entire film, and he is literally unstoppable. The only person capable of stopping him is himself. Since this is a sequel, I have no idea if this was a result of what happened in the previous movie. He's basically a comic book superhero. He is also a completely one-dimensional character with only one personality trait, Sisu. There are about 30 seconds throughout the entire film where he shows an iota of emotion. Other than that, it's action and deadpan stares. Jorma Tammila has nothing to work with. I will say that he does a great job with the physicality of the role, especially for a man in his mid-60s. But other than that, he was boring to watch, because it was established early in the film that he was going to win every single fight. There's no stakes. At least in other one-man army movies, the character has a personality or faults. Here, Atami has none. Same goes for his arch-rival and murderer of his family, Igor Dragunov, played by Stephen Lang. I usually like Lang's performances, but here he just falls flat. I could tell that they were going for like a cheesy Soviet character from an 80s movie that just spews these crazy one-liners. Like, "You really are a stupid, stubborn motherfucker." It felt so artificial, and he's usually talking to himself or to characters that have no lines. And I just couldn't get into that. There's probably about 100 lines of dialogue throughout the entire movie, most of which are either spoken by Igor or his superior. No one has any personality. Korpi kills dozens and dozens of Soviet soldiers who say nothing. And most of these soldiers die because they're just on the way to Igor. Maybe this was a cost-cutting measure because extras without speaking parts are a lot cheaper. Or maybe it's a sign of a weak script. This causes the film to be nothing more than a string of explosions. Granted, there is some fun and creative action, but not all of it. In the beginning, the film was more grounded in reality, but as it went on, it became more unhinged and ridiculous. I found myself thinking that some parts were pretty cool, and then other parts just made me roll my eyes. It felt like originally they wanted to make a straightforward, gritty action movie, but instead ended up making a weird Fast and Furious film, which in my opinion doesn't actually work in a 1940s setting. Seeing a huge diesel truck maneuver around like a sports car is just laughable. And it didn't just end there. The action became more slapstick as the movie went on, too. The soldiers looked like they were just dancing while their bodies are being riddled by machine gun fire, just wiggling along as dozens and dozens of bullets ripped through their flesh. It was ridiculous. My audience was cracking up, and again, if that was the intent of the film, I just kind of wish they led with that. Because the transition felt like a real bait and switch. There was nothing in the trailer that said, hey, this movie's gonna be goofy. It was the same for the visuals. The opening sequences were actually quite beautiful. There are well-composed shots of the finished landscape that could be oil paintings. It was just so well done. We watched Korpi go through his former home, giving us that little bit of emotion that I mentioned earlier. The shots felt meaningful, and they gave some depth to this mysterious character. I foolishly thought that we were in for a gorgeous but emotional, gritty action film about a man who is defending his family and his homeland. Wrong. Once the action started, all of that was right out the window. The landscapes were traded for close-ups and gunshots. The scenery stopped being part of a movie and just became a blur. And once the action moved to a train, there was nothing to look at for the rest of the film. As with most period pieces, there is a desaturation of colors. Because how else would you know that this movie took place in the 1940s? Though the sunrises were still full of natural color, which is nice. There were also times where the blood looked cherry red, which of course looks ridiculous with the desaturated colors. I don't know if this was done because of the CGI or if it was done for an artistic flair, but it looked odd. There's also these large chapter title cards that pop up very often. I didn't mind them at first, but then it just kept happening. There were at least 7 or 8 of them, which is a lot for a movie that's barely an hour and a half. I don't think they were very necessary. But what is necessary is a suspension of all belief. Throw away everything you know about physics, nature, anatomy, and warfare. Much of Sisu feels like a superhero cartoon. Corpy is performing superhuman feats of strength. He gets utterly decimated, but he just keeps on going. And I get how this fits into the aesthetic of a throwback 80s action flick. I did grow up on 80s and 90s cinema like the Schumacher Batmans. I understand the references. But the reason it doesn't work for me here is because of the characters. The protagonist is mute and doesn't have any charisma. He just punches and shoots anybody that looks at him. The antagonist is a caricature of a Soviet soldier who just grumbles to himself. The rest of the soldiers are just soulless bullet magnets. I also didn't realize till later that there's not a single woman in the entire film. If there was an ounce of personality in this film, it would have been easier to forgive how crazy it got. The score kept up with the action for the most part. Most of it felt like generic action orchestral swells. However, there was some injection of authentic Finnish throat singing that I actually really enjoyed. A little bit of culture for an otherwise uncultured film. They didn't even play Corpy's theme song that's shown in the trailer that goes Sisu, Sisu. In the end, Sisu Road to Revenge is a dumb movie. And I don't mean dumb fun, I just mean dumb. It lacks the charm and charisma of the movies that it's trying to emulate. The unstoppable silent hero left me bored, waiting for the movie to end. And that is why I am giving the Regal mystery movie, Sisu Road to Revenge, the shell-shocked score of 2 out of 10. And before you come after me, I know that is tragically low. But it's a pointless movie. It feels more like a stunt reel than an actual film. There isn't a reason to care about any of these characters. The fact that it's a sequel to a movie that I haven't seen didn't help much either. And hopefully Regal will stop giving us sequels as the mystery movies. I know that my opinion will be the minority, so go ahead and tell me how you felt about the movie in the comment section down below. As always, all opinions are welcome. It's definitely the kind of movie that if you're a fan of the first one, you're probably going to really enjoy this one. Or if you don't care about plot or characters having purpose, then you're going to be right at home. If you didn't catch the early screening of Sisu Road to Revenge, it will be opening in theaters on November 21st. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more gritty reviews just like this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. I need a shower.
Gremlin.